Here you see the key dimensions of the KPP framework, and using this petroleum study as an illustrative example, I'm going to talk you through, well, very briefly I'll run over political context, but then mostly what I'll be talking about is the actors dimension. So here you can see some of the contextual factors which shape policy making and the use of knowledge in policy on the issue. If you'd like more detail on these, watch out for the full report, which will be posted on the ODI website soon. The high level of political instability is one of the major factors in shaping behaviour on the issue, basically. Moving on to the next slide, we're now going to look at some of the tools which are in the chapter on actors. And first of all, it's important to look at what is the spread and the distribution of interests which are promoting and opposing change on the issues. Now, first of all, with price setting, the costs of an improved policy on price setting would effectively be borne by motorists and who would have to pay more at the pumps, whereas the benefits of a more sustainable pricing policy would be generally those people who benefit from public spending, which is a much more distributed and an amorphous group, so hence they're in the bottom left quadrant there. On the other hand, with the supply chain issue, the costs of action would be borne by the transporters, the fuel dealers, the Nepal Oil Corp, people in Nepal Oil Corporation who are currently benefiting from the illicit practices. However, those who benefit is motorists in the improvements in tackling corruption and inefficiency would be passed on to people at the pump. And so, first of all, we can start to understand already why is it there's a bit more action on the supply chain issue. It's because there's a very clearly defined and organised group who are pushing for change and who are then more likely to be taking on and brokering all the knowledge and information around the issue. Whereas on the price setting issue, with the distributed potential beneficiaries of improved policy, what is needed is a much larger effort to build a coalition around shared values, and perhaps maybe also an effort to more clearly define who would benefit, and perhaps advocacy on the price setting issue would therefore need much more concretely proposing what might be an alternative, what kinds of programs could you bring in place of the subsidies. Moving on to the next slide. This framework is looking at how the interests and the cost-benefit analysis for key decision makers matches up with the public opinion and public values around the issues. Now, on the price setting, we can see that as well as there being a relatively high costs to, certainly political costs to decision makers, and in the short run, it's also not very clear what is the public opinion and what's the public value around the issue. In fact, there are some indications that public values and beliefs actually would be against removing the subsidy. Petrol subsidies are seen as part of the course in many countries in South Asia, and the ideas and the status attached to owning motor vehicles and so on means that I think that it's not clearly the case that a more sustainable pricing policy fits in with the current cultural values and beliefs of people in Nepal. On the other hand, the supply chain issue not only will have perhaps political and economic benefits to any decision maker trying to tackle the issue, but also it fits in with popular beliefs around endemic corruption. And so again, we can see here perhaps why there's a bit more movement on the supply chain dynamics. Moving on to the third slide. This looks at the extent to which the knowledge on the issues are well established or weak or contested, and the extent to which the public values or the potential goals for policy are contested or agreed. On the supply chain issue, the goals of a potential policy are relatively clear to clamp down on corruption and to eliminate theft and inefficiency in the supply chain. And so although there's not 100% solid knowledge on exactly where the corruption is happening and how it's going ahead, the issue, because the values are agreed on the issue, it's suitable to bring in basically technical knowledge and to make policy based on expert advice on how to stamp out corruption. But on the price setting issue, ironically, a lot is known about the issue. There's a lot of established knowledge. How much is, what is the source of the problem? What is the cost of the problem? What are the potential solutions? That's all relatively well established. However, I think it's not surprising that efforts by, for example, some development organisations and donor partners to get something done by brokering in high-level technical expertise in ministries, it's not surprising that kind of technocratic response hasn't really gone anywhere, given the fact that the public values around the issue aren't well defined. So I think in order to promote action around the price setting issue, there's a need to, as I said before, maybe build a broad coalition and start to better define public values around the issue of price setting and around energy policy more broadly. And this could involve perhaps drawing on the voices of indigenous groups. One statistic I didn't show you in here is that petrol products are only used by something like 15% of energy needs in Nepal, compared to about 80% through firewood. And so I think that an informed approach to policy change on the price setting issue would involve engaging with community groups throughout the country to help define the public value before you then start thinking about what are the technical measures you could bring in. So on this last slide, I just wanted to highlight what this kind of analysis can be useful for. Hopefully, it's people you can see as you've gone through what it might be used for. But just to be specific, I think that using the KPP framework in this way can help guide policy engagement and dialogue, and it can help highlight. It highlights issues and sub-issues, and also the potential feasibility of promoting change and knowledge-based change on any of them. Secondly, I think it highlights topics and key aspects or angles on topics which would make for fertile ground for an organisation who's trying to influence policy through research and by producing knowledge and research. And thirdly, I think that it actually offers guidance for policymakers, especially for when choosing how and when to use knowledge-based tools for policy making. Again, thanks a lot, and I hope the event goes well.